What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing. I just finished up watching Emanuel Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez, and this was a 12-rounder for the WBO Super Featherweight World Championship, and this fight was Saturday, August 12th from the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona, and this fight was broadcasted on ESPN, ESPN Plus, or on the ESPN app. And in this fight, Emanuel Navarrete was able to really show out in this one, and it was an absolute war, and he got the unanimous decision victory over Oscar Valdez. This was an amazing fight, very, very good fight, absolute war this was, and this was a much, much different fight than what I thought. I thought Valdez was going to end up getting the stoppage. I thought it was going to be much more... I just really didn't think Navarrete was going to be able to survive throughout the fight and really take Oscar Valdez. I mean, I thought Valdez was going to be too polished and too, I guess you could say, too technical for him, because Navarrete is known as being a very awkward, very just interesting fighter that just is very unorthodox. That's the word. But as for Valdez, he's just much more polished, much more technical. But in this fight, it was just Navarrete's grit that got the job done. So my scorecard for this fight reads 115-113 in favor of Navarrete. I did think the judges in this fight had it much, much more wide than it should have been. One judge had a pretty good score of 116-112. I thought this fight was like a 7-5, 8-4 type fight for Navarrete. But the other two judges had it very, very wide. They had a 118-110 and 119-109. I completely disagree with those scorecards. I think it was definitely a very close, very good fight, but there was a clear winner, and that was Emanuel Navarrete. So he improves to 38-1. But just to get into my scorecard, the first round I gave to Emanuel Navarrete, but it was a absolute war in that round. Both of them were throwing big shots, but Navarrete early on was landing some good ones to back up Valdez. Round 2 was a really close round, really fun round. I thought Valdez had a very nice jab, was just landing the better shots. Rounds 3 and 4, I give them both to Emanuel Navarrete, who was just landing the heavier shots and a bit more active in those rounds. Rounds 5 and 6, I then gave to Oscar Valdez. He started to land heavier shots. He started to sit down on his punches and start to land big counters, big heavier shots in those rounds. Then round number 7, I gave to Emanuel Navarrete. I thought he was just landing some very nice combinations from sort of the outside and at mid-range. It looked like he was slowing down a bit, but he was landing some very, very good combinations. Then rounds 8 and 9, I gave them both to Oscar Valdez. Round number 8 was an extremely close round in my opinion. Could have went either way, but I just edged it to Valdez. Round number 9, though, Valdez was pressing Navarrete in that round, so it was a very, very good round for him. And in that round, it really seemed like Navarrete's right hand was just extremely hurt in that round. And I mean, the fact that he was able to really get through this fight with a real hurt hand shows his true grit. And then rounds 10, 11, and 12, all went to Emanuel Navarrete. I thought round 10 was just specifically a war. Navarrete was just landing the better shots, but in the last 10 seconds, they really went at it, throwing huge combinations at each other. And rounds 11 and 12, Navarrete was pressing and just landing the better shots overall and closed out very, very well. So, with that being said, comment down below your scorecard, and this goes into question, what is next for Emanuel Navarrete, 38-1, 31 KOs. I don't think they're going to have a rematch. I thought that Navarrete was a clear victor in this one. Definitely, I think the better fighter in the end. Just much, much more aggressive in terms of the fact that he was just, like, Valdez was waiting for his punches a lot. Navarrete wouldn't wait for Valdez to reset. He was just throwing those short uppercuts in between, those long uppercuts with his long arms in between, landing big shots on Valdez. I mean, Navarrete looked like a completely different fighter compared to his first fight at 130 against Liam Wilson, who he almost got stopped against. And Liam Wilson's a much, much worse fighter than Valdez. And against Valdez here, he really showed up. So for Emanuel Navarrete retaining the WBO Super Featherweight title, in terms of what's next for him, I just made a list of some of the WBO contenders he could face. I don't necessarily think he's going to, in his next fight, going to be unifying. Obviously, the champions at 130 are Joe Cordina. I think it's Shaki Foster is the WBC champion, Cortina's the IBF, and the WBA Super World title I think is vacant, and the regular title I think belongs to Hector Luis Garcia. But yeah, I mean, I don't really think he's going to be unifying in his next fight, but I think in his next fight he could take on someone highly ranked by the WBO. Possibly it could be any of these guys who are with Top Rank, possibly Charlie Suarez, Robson Consecao, Henry Lebron, or Albert Bell, who just got a win yesterday. But yeah, I think any of those guys could be next for Navarrete. But as for Oscar Valdez, for him, 31 wins, 2 losses now. I think in his next fight, I mean, he's still a top guy at 130, definitely a top 5 fighter, even top 3, I would say, possibly top 4. For Valdez, I think he's just going to maybe take it slow, get a nice, solid win or two against maybe decent level, top 15, maybe someone just outside the top 10 in the super featherweight division. Like I said before, just might get a solid win or two before maybe having a very solid fight against someone who is in the top 5 or recognized in the top 10, something like that. So overall, Emanuel Navarrete defeats Oscar Valdez in an absolute war by unanimous decision to retain his WBO super featherweight world title. And yeah, that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.